John, welcome to 2021, my friend.
Yeah, Happy New Year.
It is time for another episode of Eat, Sleep, Code, the official Telerik podcast, the first of the year.
Yes. I hope everyone's had a good holiday break and everyone's had a safe and happy New Year.
Hopefully 2021 does not repeat the things that happened last year. Hopefully we have a great year. We've got vaccinations in the pipeline and some good news on that front. So hopefully things turn around soon. I know it's not quite as dire down there in Australia. Things have gotten a bit better for you guys. I heard there was a small kind of like outbreak of a handful of people, but then you guys got it back under control. Is that about right?
Yeah, basically Australia has the benefit of being located in the world's basement and also being somewhat isolated from a geography perspective in terms of being an island. And so we have a pretty tight quarantine in effect for the whole country. The unfortunate thing is that people still come into the country infected, but they go into mandatory hotel quarantine for 14 days. Mm-hmm. And recently we had an outbreak that occurred, and we're only talking about 8 people, 9 people. But our strategy is suppression and I guess at some point elimination entirely. There was a point, I believe, last year where we had no active. Well, that's not true. They're still active in hospitals, but it was like no community transmission in a lot of places. We had 100 days in certain states of no community transmission, et cetera, et cetera. So, generally, I think we're doing quite well. Where I live in Queensland, there's you barely ever see masks, but that's a result of having very strict measures in place for people coming into the state, etc.
Yeah, there was actually a really good docu-series they did. They did it in a couple countries. There was one in the U.S., Canada, and Australia. I think in New Zealand too. It was called I think it was just literally called Border Patrol, and
right.
they showed all the stuff that they seize that comes through the borders. But being on an island, those borders are coming from either the sea or by air. So It's quite an interesting situation that you have versus many other countries out there.
Yeah, but we have put heavy restrictions on incoming passengers. I think only permanent residents and citizens can enter the country at the moment. Travel is very limited, and for good reason. Because Australia is so geographically isolated, there's unique things that are to Australia that we have to make sure we preserve, and we need to be very careful about the indigenous population that is located in Australia as well. We have to be very careful about transmitting obviously across state lines, etc. And so the word, or I guess the people would say it as overly precautionary, maybe if they're in the United States based on what's happening there, but it seems to be working for us. But who knows what will happen? We're just trying our best, as is everyone else.
Right. Let's get on to some tech news. We got some friends
Sure.
in the chat here. We got good old David Pine and Chris DeMars joining us. First article up, I might as well go ahead and just get this one right out in the open. I like this. This is a project that David Pine here in chat shared with me right before the holiday break. And I thought this was pretty cool, so I thought I'd share it on the show today. This is a project that he's been working on to help localize .NET applications. And I like the unique take here. So David's using GitHub Actions.
Mm-hmm.
So basically you set up your main localization for the application, and then when you start going through your CI/CD process, there is some cognitive services that go out there and translate the resource files for you into other languages. And it's a really cool kind of hands-off thing because it's automating a lot of that translation process.
Sure.
So this is something really cool to check out. You can see the blog post up here on the Microsoft blogs. I'll share that in chat. But he's also got this up on GitHub as well. So there's a GitHub repository linked in that article that you can go in and you can make contributions to, create pull requests and whatnot. And he's got some demo apps up there. So he's been working hard on it. It's really cool. It's quite a lengthy article here. There's a lot going on in that project he's been working on. So good stuff, David. Thanks for sharing that with me, by the way. I would have never found this on my own. So this is really cool.
Yeah. You got to be. I guess I mean, I like the solution. It's elegant. It uses GitHub Actions, which I'm a fan of. Obviously, if you're using GitHub, it's a natural case for that. GitHub Actions are really great because you can do all kinds of workflow processes based on certain actions that come into your repo on check-in, on pull requests, etc. On commit rather. So and then you can kick off these sort of scripts that you can write in pretty much any language now. You only could write them in like JavaScript, but now you can write them in Go. You can write them in a variety of languages. The only thing that I could see a potential problem is the translation itself. Obviously, machines aren't great at that. Instead of like, please, you might have a dialogue that's localized to say, please click continue to accept the EULA. It might get translated the French equivalent or whatever equivalent might be. Please to be asking you to accept the nominated dialogue box. Please and thank you. So that's been my experience with those.
I've seen hiccups with punctuation, and some of the context gets a little awkward sometimes if you don't understand.
But it's a good starting point, right?
Doesn't understand the context of what you're doing in the app. So sometimes the translations don't have a one-to-one kind of, or the one-to-one translation doesn't make sense for an application where it might make sense if you're in the store buying something, but on an app that transaction or something might have different a way of pronouncing it or saying it or different words to describe it. So some things get a little thrown off.
That's fine. For the two pizza team, it's not a problem.
This is a nice base you can set down to get the majority, get the 80% out of the way. Use the old 80-20 rule. Get the 80% down, get it all translated, and then have somebody that knows the language go through and tidy up the manual bits. So
the translation services that I've seen online aren't super expensive. They work between like 10 cents to 20 cents a word. So you can translate a whole page for, maybe a few tens of dollars. And, there you go.
Good stuff. All right. Dot Purple. This is one of your links, John. Tell us a little bit about it.
So as you guys know, the .NET CLI has a bunch of commands to help manage installations. So you can upgrade your installation. You can install new versions of the .NET Core runtime. Basically, Dot Purple is a UI on top of that. So you can do things like managing it. It's basically because the CLI commands themselves can be they're a bit opaque, right? They're not the easiest thing to learn. You can munge your way through it and figure it out. But this just provides a nice UI on top of it. So it allows you to manage templates, allows you to manage frameworks installations, allows you to do all the things that you'd normally do through the CLI, except now through a UI.
Some of these things are built into Visual Studio now as well. So if you have a CLI tool or template, if you have a .NET template, Visual Studio will automatically pick up .NET templates. I think there's a switch you still need to flip for the discovery to happen, but it's still a nice feature to have turned on. So Eagles here in chat, he's got a nice unit test framework, and there's some templates for that. And if they're installed, you just check this box in Visual Studio, and they light up in the File New Project dialog. So that's pretty cool. But this is nice as well. I mean, this goes beyond just templates. There's a lot more with tools and other things going on. And of course you have the obligatory light and dark theme. Oh wow, they added a slider and everything. Look at that. That's totally necessary. I love
it's just there if you're lazy and you don't want to learn the command line. That's totally reasonable. It's there for you to use. So there you go.
These tools are great for beginners.
Sure.
I was a beginner once, and what you do is you go in here and you learn. I didn't know it had these parameters I could pass to it. They're lit up here in the UI, and you learn about those things, and then you kind of it's like training wheels.
Yep.
And I mean that in the best way possible, not
Dude, I understand.
way. You
Yep.
do, but I don't know. Folks are sensitive these days. We'll move
All
on.
right.
Octoverse.
Yeah. So this is
something of yours, John.
yeah, this is like all the state of whatever sites that are out there, JavaScript, CSS, like we covered, etc. This is the state of the Octoverse. So basically, what GitHub has tabulated over the 2020 calendar year in terms of usage, in terms of growth, in terms of demographics, in terms of whatever. And so, I don't know how useful this information is for folks, but it does give some perspective on what people are doing with GitHub. And so, just something to check out at octoverse.github.com.
I thought this was a Octopus deploy thing at the very first. So I thought it was something of your own. But this is still...
I mean, everyone seems to like the octopus analogy, but yeah, there you go.
So they even...
So you can see, COVID lockdown had some big impacts. I think that's across the board with tech, to be honest. I mean, I've heard and I've seen just a huge number of people say that they've never been busier in tech, that sales are doing well, et cetera, that everyone's remote, et cetera. And as a result, it's driving the digital transformation that we all talked about for so long. It's like by incumbent, we're like, all right, here we go, so we got to do it anyway. So, yeah.
Yeah, I have to take some more time to scan through this. It looks like there's some really good information in here. I like these end-of-year report things. We should probably see if Stack Overflow's got one coming. They usually do one about this time of year as well.
Yeah, they do their survey, which is a bit different. This is just based on analytics of usage. It would be interesting if they had a taxonomy, Stack Overflow, if they had a taxonomy of questions like are most questions, basically using a text analyzer to say, what classification of questions are asked. Are they advanced? Are they beginner? I would suspect that the vast majority of questions on Stack Overflow are quite beginner questions, but there you go.
Yeah. Good stuff. What do we got from Hanselman?
Yeah, so Scott hasn't actually done his list in a while. He used to do it a lot, but this is his 2020-2021 version of his developer and Power Tools tool list for Windows. So if you're a Windows user or developer, there are going to be a lot of tools listed on his page here that are going to help you in a big way. So a lot of the tools you'll be familiar with, some of them you won't even never have heard of. And I've found that historically when I've been on this list, I've like, oh, I've never heard of this or that, and used them and found that they greatly accelerate my productivity or development skills on Windows. To be honest, I'm pretty familiar with all these tools already. Some of them are going to be on this list forever, right? Mm-hmm. So, but there are some new additions, and Scott felt like since he's done it in the past, he'll do it again. Yeah. So there's some notable examples there worth mentioning.
Yeah, Zoomit's one that I use all the time. That's a
sure.
Windows zooming tool, especially if you're... I mean, this is something that if you're working remotely, which a lot of us are right now, is super handy, even if you're not streaming like I am. If you have to do a stand-up for your team, this is a tool that you can just hit a couple of buttons. You can zoom in on your screen, and then you can annotate things, kind of like the Monday Night Football type of thing. So yeah. That's a really cool tool. Again, if you're doing stand-ups, you can highlight sections of code with it and tell people, what they're doing good and bad and that sort of thing.
I remember seeing Zoom it back in 2006. I think I was at a presentation with Mark Rasinovich, and he was using it, and everyone just lost their minds. They're like, whoa, what is this? You're drawing on the screen. And then I started using it because I was at Microsoft at the time doing lots of presentations. And I swear to God, I mean, I would lay it out all on the stage, telling everyone about what's latest and greatest in Visual Studio 2015, or not 2015, but 2008 or whatever. And all the questions were like, what's that tool you're using to draw on the screen? I'm like, it's Zoom it. Like, thanks for listening, but it's Zoom it. So
you gotta love that as a presenter when you're using some of these things and they kind of take over, all the Q&A or some of the focus from what you're actually talking about. You're like, today we're talking about machine learning. They're like, what's that thing that you use to draw on the screen with? Gotta love
Yeah.
that. The other one I get that with a lot is ligatures in Visual Studio. They're like, what's
Sure.
that font?
Sure.
I gotta have that
Yeah. Yeah.
font.
So the section there that is the .NET Tools section. Just scroll up again. Some of the ones that I'll mention, not the life and work changing ones. That one is that's pretty canonical. Those ones are easy. But the developer utilities here I think are good. LinkPad is one that's been in my arsenal since forever. So that's a tool that allows you to construct link queries. It's fantastic. Joseph's been working on that forever. Another one that I like is WinDBG, which is highlighted in that section. WinDBG is it is a great tool for debugging. They recently redid the UI for it, but it's very low level. This is something that, if you're not used to seeing debuggers, it's going to be hard to grasp. But once you start using, like, I would say that after you learn how to program, the next thing you should learn to do is how to debug, because debuggers, you can find so many problems rather than like doing printfs and stuff. Debuggers help great in that regard. And the same thing goes for other debuggers that are available as well. GitHub Desktop. Wireshark is one that I probably would hesitate using myself. I've used it, but I find that it's just way too verbose in terms of the amount of data that it gives you in terms of what's on the wire. But this is like Fiddler plus all kinds of other tools built into one, and you can basically it gives you the raw sort of stream of packets that are going in between you and everyone else. So there's lots of stuff that it does. Just to mention a few.
Fiddler is on there as well.
Yep.
Markdown Monsters, one that I just downloaded the other day, and man, did this make life so much easier. Like doing Markdown in Visual Studio and stuff is fine, but if you're writing like a blog post or something, that is not the tool. It's not.
That view is available in VS
better.
Code, though. You can do a preview side by side in VS Code.
The preview's not where it's at.
Okay.
The place where this is really strong is
Code.
It's giving you a lot more like spell checking and things like that.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
It's like having like Word, Microsoft Word, but
Right.
the output is Markdown and it's clean.
Yeah.
Another thing that's really helpful here is I want to be able to highlight a section of Markdown and then right-click, copy that to my clipboard as HTML. This is handy if you're like pasting into like CMSs and things like that.
Yep.
I could not find a plugin for Visual Studio Code that did this well. It was an absolute nightmare to figure that out, and I ended up downloading this, and my problem was solved instantly. So that is definitely a good one. Markdown Monster is fantastic. Winderstat is one that I had to search and find again this morning. So one of my 2021 objectives was to clean my drive up a little bit. So this one will give you like that big, I can't remember the type of diagram this is.
Tree map.
Tree map, yeah. Tree maps out your drive and tells you where all your files are at. So I went into like Steam this morning, like shifted some things off of my primary drive so I could fit more work-related tasks on there. So yeah, this is a great list. This should be there should be a button here to just like go to Chocolatey and just install all these things. That would be great. No takers. All right.
Yeah.
I'll move on. John's like, no Chocolatey for me, thanks.
Oh, whatever. I don't care. Sure.
Chocolatey is a command line installer for Windows, by the way. If you're not familiar,
Yeah, it's the equivalent of apt-get, things like that. Yeah.
This is a link that I shared. Fable is an interesting thing. I can't say I've used it, but it always fascinates me. So whenever I see it being talked about, I think it's fun to share. So somebody in the community wrote a F# to JavaScript compiler. So this will actually take F# code, compile it over to, or translate it over to JavaScript, kind of like TypeScript does for JavaScript, but this uses F#. So there's some better stability and speed updates that have been added to this.
I'm just curious, what was the motivation for this tool?
It has been around for quite some time. So this came out, I want to say, around the same time that CoffeeScript and TypeScript were kind of new still.
Okay.
So this was, just the same type of thing. It was a solution for creating JavaScript from another language.
Yeah.
And this
I
was
just
an F
didn't. I
sharp
didn't think it was a
developer.
big thing. Like I didn't think that there was a lot of, like if you're writing in F sharp, I would imagine if you're writing in F sharp, you're going to stick with F sharp because you chose F sharp for for a reason. You're already talking about a very small number of people using the language, and now you're wanting to convert it to JavaScript. I can see maybe if someone's built up an F sharp library that they want to move over to JavaScript, but whatever. So.
Well, if you're a F sharp developer and you want to build web applications, and this is pre-Blazor, so
Yeah, that's why I'm asking that question because with Blazor, it's yeah,
so I mean you could use this essentially with any JavaScript framework that you'd like to use with it as well. So if you wanted to build, say, a Vue.js application, but you're a .NET dev and you do F sharp primarily, and you wanted to get in, throw some Vue in there, not write JavaScript, you can write F sharp instead.
I think I feel like I've thrown some fresh meat into the dog kennel because everyone's commenting about the motivation now. We've got everything from JavaScript sucks to et cetera, et cetera. So
Eagle was asking if it is a front-end framework as well. I'm not certain about the front-end framework part of it.
well, it reads at the bottom there, powered by the Babel compiler, which is used for that purpose. So if you have TypeScript in the browser, you can use Babel to run it.
Yeah, but it's not
Babel
like
produces
a UI
readable JavaScript.
framework, or it doesn't
Right.
underpin any
No,
type
no, no.
of, it's not. It's
No,
not
you're
like
not. You're not writing
competitor
UIs
with
in F
React or
sharp
anything.
anyway. Yeah, you're not writing UIs in F sharp anyway. You're using F sharp for computational.
This would be in
reasons.
place of like TypeScript or something. It fits that role. But I mean, it's still pretty cool that you can write a functional language, F sharp, and have that compiled over to JavaScript.
I don't know. This just
alongside.
reminds me of that scene in The Simpsons
Like
where
that.
Homer goes up to his cupboard and he grabs the jar of nuts and gum, and it says underneath "Together at last." Like I can't see the motivation for this, but whatever. So I'm look. I'm as always. I'm prepared to be told I'm wrong and stupid. So
Hey, I mean, there's pineapple on pizza, and there's people like me that enjoy it. So
sure, fair enough.
there you go. And this is another thing that's kind of in that same ballpark. PWAs. Maybe you want to write a PWA in F sharp, and you want to use F sharp to do that. So there's some updates coming to the OS that help with F sharp, or sorry, with PWAs. So if you had a PWA in the past, it would install and look like a normal application. It gives you the kind of like experience down here where you have the little preview in your app bar,
Sure. Yep.
that sort of thing. But you would have an icon on your desktop. You'd right click on install, and it'd take you to the on install window that comes with the OS, and your app is not in there. And then what you have to do is go into Chrome, and there's like a little kebab icon up here,
Yep.
like little three
Yep, yep.
dots. You got to click there to uninstall it. It's completely not intuitive at all. So they've added that uninstall UI to the OS finally, and it makes it a more seamless experience. So it looks like they're still working on PWA integration with Windows. So it's nice to see it's still moving forward. Blazor has that PWA template that comes with it, so you can get up and running with
Sure.
your PWA apps on Windows really easily.
At the risk of sounding like Dennis Miller, I don't mean to get off on a rant here, but when is Google going to fix the bloat of Chrome? Like I think instead of trying to facilitate these PWA experiences, why don't they work on getting the bloat and memory suckage out of Chrome first before starting to enable these other experiences? Because correct me if I'm wrong, I remember when Chrome first came out, they had that whole sort of manifesto that they wrote saying how performance is a first-class citizen and that your browser should always be running well and it shouldn't take over your machine, et cetera, et cetera. And now they've got this monstrosity of an app that just sucks all the living RAM out of your machine for itself. So, I mean, I don't care about this. Go, like Google, stop doing stuff like this and start working on your memory problems because they are problems. I mean, it shouldn't take a gigabyte of RAM to render an HTML page. I'm sorry, but it's just I don't know, what are you doing? It's like Outlook with its 8,000 threads, back in the day. So I don't know what else to say here. I'm like, I would rather read Google is going back to Google is now planning performance as, in its next version, I guess. But, whatever. So I look at things like this. I just shrug my shoulders. I'm like, you're focusing on the wrong problem, right?
Maybe
but
Google
to
should
be
more
fair,
like
this guy
Apple
is
and take
right.
over a fab for memory and just go into business on it.
You got to install like a special RAM chip, which is like got the Chrome logo on it. So yeah, there you go. And everyone, of course, is jumping in saying use a different browser. Fair enough. Like I've recently switched. I was on Brave for a while, and then I moved back to Safari because I've been on Safari a little bit just because I've been hearing from folks that if you're on Mac OS, it's actually quite good. I don't know. I found it locking up, but anyways, yeah, I don't know. I don't care anymore. Just render the page, okay? I don't care if it does this or that. Just render it, please. That's all I care about.
Stay classy, David.
Just do your job. That's all. You have one. No, you have many jobs actually. Browsers. I've said this before on this show that browser technology is probably the most complicated technology you could ever devise because there's so many things, and plus it has to run completely secure, et cetera, et cetera. Anyways. So I sympathize and I have empathy, but at the same time, it's like, come on, you can't. And Chrome has no one else to look at, but the Chrome team has no one else to look at but themselves. They can't blame other people because I've ran it without extensions, and it's still you bring up the task manager or the system tray icon or something, and it's burning through all your RAM. And it's like, guys, I don't have like 10 DIMMs to throw in this machine. Like give me a break. I just make it run. Can you do that, please? Thanks.
We need to get the Greenpeace folks after him and say it's add up how much extra power is being spent.
Well, that's the approach I think that the the Edge team was espousing, which is basically their performance with Edge is much more power friendly, and so they're thinking about that a lot. I don't know if that's a huge concern, but just to answer the question about what my experience with Brave, it was fine. There was really no problems. I didn't really notice a difference. There's built-in features on iOS for VPNs, etc. Whatever. I mean, there's VPNs all over the place. Brave is fine. I just value my privacy, and no, not for any other reason other than I just value my privacy. So, and I use DuckDuckGo as my search engine. So, shoot me. I don't care. But it's one of those things. I just thought I'd give it a try. I've recently gone back to Safari. You play with these things and you're just like, okay, I guess they're roughly the same. I mean, I've noticed that with Safari, things kind of lock up. I don't know what's going on there. It could be my network. Who knows? But, it's like the case with any outage. It's like, if it's not DNS, it's DNS. The same thing with users. If it's not your network, it's your network. So anyways.
Yeah. John's usual glowing review of things. Meh.
Yeah.
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 Was, meh.
Oh, God, I've been through the browser wars. This is like the 4th, 5th iteration of browser wars. I don't care anymore. I'm done.
I don't think it'll be the last time either.
No.
Speaking of wars, is that a segue?
Nicely done. Nicely done. That was good.
Thank you. I thought this was cool. Just being an overall computing geek, I thought this was neat.
Yeah.
They recovered an Enigma machine.
How did they know it was there?
I am not sure. I'm sure they
were trying to clear abandoned fishing nets from the Bay of Gelting and then the Baltic Sea near the German Danish border, and they found the artifact. Interesting. They probably thought it was a typewriter at first.
Yeah, that European region. I mean, you can't go too far without uncovering
tripping over
stuff.
a landmine or some artifact of the World War. Yeah, for sure.
I mean, there's still unexploded ordnance incidents and things like that happen.
Yep, in London and in parts of Germany, etc. Yep. It's crazy.
Just like you said. That is no typewriter. So, yeah, this is really cool. If you have a chance, I know probably people are probably catching up after the holidays and aren't watching as much TV as they were the last couple weeks.
Right.
But the movie that they did, and I cannot for the life of me remember the name of it at the moment, the one with Benedict Cumberbatch, I think is the guy.
That was the impersonation game or something like. I can't remember. It's like
game. Yeah, that was
okay.
it.
Yeah.
Intimidation game was
impersonation game.
Excellent.
Who am I? I'm Benedict Cumberbatch.
Yeah. If you get a chance, watch that. It's an excellent movie about all this stuff. But 1945 encryption device, used during World
Sure.
War II. They dug one up underneath of the ocean. I thought that was pretty neat.
Now, to tie this into something else that's recently happened, they recently cracked the Zodiac killer's 51-year cryptic message. So that was done by 3 researchers, a guy in Melbourne, and then 2 other, some math guy in Denmark, et cetera, et cetera. So the Zodiac killer was back in the early 70s, I believe, and he sent out these encrypted messages, and there was this one that they couldn't crack for like 51 years, and they recently did it, and they did it using a bit of brute force. But yeah, it was kind of the way it was written was kind of cool. Like it was written diagonally, and 1 up, 2 across, and 1 down, and they used they didn't use machine. They wrote a program to do it, but they didn't use machine learning. I think they used a combination of a little bit of machine learning, but they wrote a program to basically brute force the thing. So
interesting.
Yeah, to tie into the code breaking thing there. So
yeah, it was off his rocker, but it's so like wild because these people that end up like a lot of criminals and things are actually very, very intelligent people. They said, Alcatraz was just full of these brilliant minds just put to the wrong use. That Zodiac killer thing is just bizarre. That people with such vast knowledge go through all this effort to do.
I just
terrible things.
Respect the guys who break the codes. Like that's just insane to me. The amount of time and energy and effort and dedication to break these cryptographic messages, Enigma or otherwise, is just insane. Like you really have to love a puzzle to work that stuff out, I think.
I'm a bit of a gaming nerd. I thought this was kind of interesting. If you remember the Super Nintendo and the Super FX chip, this might be of some interest. So somebody went and created their own FPGA that is basically a a Super FX, Nintendo Super FX graphics chip that has real-time ray tracing availability on it. So you can...
I love the subtitle. Move over, PlayStation 5.
Right. Yeah.
Here comes the Super Nintendo.
So the video of it is a little less impressive.
Yeah.
I think it hasn't been put to its full potential yet, but the idea is you could play through those Super FX games with ray trace lighting. So while they're neat
Do they look
looking,
any better?
it's not. Let's see if I can find that segment again. A lot of this is fluff.
I'm surprised the console wouldn't catch on fire.
That's not the right one. There is a video of it here, but it's more of a technical demo type of a video.
Okay.
So they don't have it incorporated in any of the games yet. It's more just showing off the fact that it can work.
Did they mod the hardware in any way?
Yeah, it's a custom FPGA.
Oh, okay.
So let's see here. I can't find the right link or the right video embedded here. I did watch the video on YouTube here, and like I said, it was not quite as impressive as it sounds. And here
You can see it in action here. Yeah.
Yeah. So what they did with the Nintendo back in the day was
that's hot.
The console itself wasn't that powerful. It was really great at 2D graphics and had a high range of colors and that sort of thing.
This is so Star Fox right now.
Yeah. So what they did is they actually put a coprocessor on the cartridge itself.
Okay.
And that was the Super FX chip. So they for every game that you bought, you basically had a little mini console in there with this field programmable array.
And this is live, they're saying.
Yeah. They're
Sorry,
doing live
I keep
ray
interrupting.
tracing.
Yeah.
So they would bolt on this processor inside of the cartridge and run all the you basically had a 3D graphics card in the cartridge itself. So they kind of retrofit the console through the cartridge.
They're probably probably generating the render maps on the cartridge and then just feeding that into the console, saying just display this basically, rather than telling the console, draw this, draw that. So
it was a generic 3D processor that they created for those games. So it was kind of augmenting the platform just a little bit. But it made the cartridges super expensive. You had to
you
manufacture
think?
the chip and embed it on every one of them. So what this person has done is they've gone back and looked at the architecture and created another chip that has additional capabilities to add ray tracing to those old games. So that'd be really cool to see, even though it's not completely necessary. As you can tell, the graphics are still going to be kind of terrible, but they can do real-time lighting, which would be kind of neat. So I thought that was interesting. Kind of a cool hack that's been done.
All right. We'll take your word for it.
Good stuff. All right. That is all we've got for today, John. Appreciate you coming on and helping me out with this again.
All good.
Definitely need your perspective on things to balance me out here.
My curmudgeon-y perspective on things. There you go.
Absolutely. Thank you all for joining us for the first show of the year. We've got all sorts of stuff coming up on the Code It Live channel throughout the year this year and this week especially. We have some web shows Wednesday. Next week, David Pine's going to join me, and Alyssa Nicole, we're going to do some Signal R next week. So we're getting ready for that right now. And got a lot of prep work to do. So we're going to build some kind of game. We're not 100% sure yet. But
Star Fox. Do that ray tracing thing.
Yeah, ray tracing with Signal R.
Do a barrel roll.
Real-time WebSocket ray tracing.
There you go.
Yeah, not happening. But we're gonna build some sort of a game, whether it's a dice game or card game. It's yet to be determined. But we're gonna do something where there's like a main screen, and then people can grab their phones and like join a game and play a game together. So it'd be a cool, fun experiment. We're gonna use Blazor, Signal R. We're gonna live stream the whole thing and kind of wing it all. So come watch us fail and learn some stuff. Good stuff. All right. Take care, everyone, and we will see you all week.
Stay safe.